Hello.
Hello.
You're live. I'm live. We are live.
Fancy meeting you
Oh
here.
my gosh. Friday. It's another Friday. It's been so many Fridays, I feel like. Maybe just a
Yeah.
couple, but it feels like it's been forever.
It's been like 3 Fridays at least.
So many Fridays. So, I think that what we're going to do with the YouTube now, because, you guys, we're still figuring out this video stuff and streaming and where the appropriate place is to stream for certain things, and it's a lot, you guys. I have not avoided video for 4 years for no reason. Literally 4 years. I'm like, I won't touch it. I can't. It's
And now here we are.
Renee said, "Hello ladies, glad you're back." Thank you, Renee. We're glad to be back. I'm not
Thank
going to lie, you
you.
guys. Mental health is kind of a bitch, and I was like, "Fallon, I don't feel like it." I'm like, not my best self right now. I'm tired. She was like, you can do it. We can do it." And I was like, okay. She was like, people are going to be excited to see us. And I was like, okay, that's nice. That makes me feel good. So
And see, I mean, at least one person is excited to see you,
I know.
if not more. There you go. How
And Maya
lovely.
also said, "Hi Maya, thank you." So, I think that with our new, at least how we're going to be doing YouTube for now, is we're going to record the episodes pretty much as if it were just Fallon and I doing it together in a recording studio. So we are going to just jump into the episode, which, you guys, is today going to be about the kidnapping in Chowchilla. 3 men walk into a bus, 26 children get kidnapped. It sounds like a line to a joke, but it's not.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And I it was suggested to me that maybe when a new documentary comes out, instead of binge or busting it, which is what we classically do, where we retell the documentary basically, scene by scene for those who don't like documentaries. And then I did a poll in our Discord. You guys join our Discord, TSFU the podcast.com, because we take polls and we chat and shit in there. And I was like, do you guys want a classic binge or bust, or do you want like a little recap of the documentary and then the stuff that's not mentioned in the documentary? And we had about 25 to 1. So today we're talking about the new Chowchilla documentary on Max, but we're also going to be answering questions that are not in the documentary.
That's right.
So, you guys, we are going to jump into recording mode. I am going to take a little note for our editors because I'm rocking and rolling that way now, where I'm going to say where we're starting the episode. And so, hi, Super Pups. Super glad to see you. And thank you for, thanks you guys for understanding, needing to take time for yourself. I think, I wouldn't be very good at practicing what I was preaching if I just kept like drilling away. So let's do this. All right. Fallon, are you ready to like episode it up?
I am ready. I'm so ready. I'm so happy it's not talking about, another 6-part documentary. So I'm really stoked to tell you about this because it's such a cool story. Not like good, but interesting.
I am ready to party. Everybody's like, 26 kids got kidnapped, Ashley. Well, we actually haven't introduced the show, but they probably know.
Look how ready I am. That's right, Maya.
Fallon, you can't say anything to the...
Oh, I didn't know we started yet because we...
Oh, yeah, no, we're sorry. We're started.
Yeah.
Oh, boom.
Okay.
We're in.
Sorry.
That's okay. Sorry, Maya. Fallon's being silly. No chatty, Fallon.
You finally gave me access to the chat, and now I can't have it.
You're like, no, I can't say anything.
Such a tease.
Okay, let's take it from the top. Keep the same energy. Love it. Ready?
Yeah.
Go. Are you so ready, Fallon?
I'm so ready. I'm ready to tell you about 26 kids getting kidnapped, but it's a good story.
I'll take it over um uh just hearing stories of children being singularly intensely abused. So, I'm I'm ready to party. I'm ready to get on the bus. Yeah, you
Not the
know
Chowchilla
what?
bus.
Everybody, I'm ready to get on the party bus to hear about the Chowchilla bus. Too soon? I'm sorry. I don't know. So, you guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is That's So Fucked Up, a podcast about cults, murder, and other generally fucked up stuff, such as mass kidnappings. And we are your hosts. I'm Ashley Love Richards.
And I'm Fallon Morey.
And yeah, we're back. I mean, it's nice to be back on the normal schedule. We just recently released the episode about Wanda Drawecki. Dwowrecki.
Dworecki.
Yeah. Woof, that is a crazy murder story. But yeah, we're getting kind of back into the swing of more regular, I guess, episodes. So we're excited about that. And you guys, That's So Fucked Up Presents is coming back. It's coming back soon, and it's coming back hot and hard. What? I don't know.
What? That's what
I don't-
she said?
Yeah. So, That's So Fucked Up Presents Psychotic Psychology is what we've got coming up. And, depending on how quickly we get this episode released, I think it'll be pretty soon. That probably has just started. So tune into that, you guys. We're looking at psychological social experiments, and basically it turns out that anybody can become a Nazi, and we need to be very, very afraid. That's the gist of what we can, I think, sum it up to. Don't you think, Fallon?
Yeah, every social psychology in the 50s and 60s was fucked up, and everyone in some way wanted to investigate Nazis. Like, so we learned.
No, but I think what we learned, or what, I'm going to speak for myself, is that if you put people in a position where there's like authoritarian power and the right brainwashing is in place, like most people have the ability to, via groupthink, become somewhat monsters.
A little bit.
So, I mean, don't be afraid, you guys, but like, be afraid. Okay. Just watch out. Just watch your back. That's all I'm saying. The other day, I was in the car and I was like, listen, if I were near X, I would absolutely X that motherfucker. And my boyfriend was like, dude, you cannot say that. And I was like, do I live in communist Russia or China? Like, are we really being spied on that hardcore? And he's like, you can't talk about assassinating presidents. And I was like, allegedly.
I mean, I allegedly talked about it.
But it was
definitely not on the podcast.
That is scary, No, I mean, it's just a hypothetical. Is that too much? I don't even know. Whatever. It's out there. This is the internet. We just got to keep rolling, Fallon. So
I like you say it like it's me that's not rolling. It's not
Fallon,
me.
you gotta
stop distracting us.
Get
right?
on the bus and roll the story forward.
Why don't I tell you about the bus? Are you ready?
I would love to hear about it.
Yeah.
You guys, go to I'm gonna be so on stuff from now on. I'm gonna try. You guys go to tsfuthepodcast.com where you can play bingo with us and pull up fucked up bingo, and we'll see if we can get a bingo here. I mean, I think we might be able to. And there you can also find Discord where you can join the community, and Patreon. We've got a lot of new patrons lately. Thank you much. So, you guys, what is talking? We love you. I mean, I can't even explain. Y'all are woof. The generosity lately is incredible.
Yeah. We're excited. We're excited to bring you fresh new stuff now that we're back from our little break.
Oh yeah. So, Fallon, you watched a documentary in preparation for this, yes?
I did. I watched the Chowchilla documentary that's on Max. And so I'm going to tell you little bits of it, kind of interspersed with the what really happened from my own research into it. And you'll hear where I talk about what we learned from the documentary as we go through. So
Okay,
it's
cool.
going to be exciting.
I'm into it. I mean, I'm not, but I've heard of this story before and don't know the details, and I'm excited to learn more.
Right. So, are you ready? Am I good?
I'm
Oh,
so
I'm
ready.
going. Oh, okay. Let's go. Start the
Yeah.
bus. So, if you're not familiar with Chowchilla and you haven't watched the documentary yet, Chowchilla was the largest ever kidnapping in United States history. It happened in a small town where no one would have expected it during a summer day in 1976. And what it's also famous for is not just the kidnapping itself, but interestingly enough, how it impacted the people who were the victims. And it really changed the way that they deal with events that could lead to childhood trauma even now.
Mm. The town, like how the town dealt with it,
How
or
the world dealt with it. Like there's a lot of changes to the way they deal with traumatic events that children are part of, even like school shootings, for example, because of what happened in Chowchilla.
oh, okay, cool. That's
So
good to know.
we'll get,
Landmark case.
yeah, absolutely. So Chowchilla is located in a place called Madera County in California. It's like 256 miles from Los Angeles. It's a super small town. It only has a square it only has a square area of 11 miles, the town itself. Temperatures reach over 110 in the summers. That sounds awful.
No.
No. And I say that because this happened in the middle of summer. So you have to think about 110 degrees and these kids going through what they went through. The median family income in the town at the time of the kidnapping was only $6,800. And this was a money motivated kidnapping. So, why did they kidnap a bunch of people that made $6,000 a year? And in the documentary, they describe a lot of these same factors about the town. You know, everyone knows each other. It's a very small town, and there are definitely more churches here than bars. So, opposite of some other small towns we've talked about, which are heavy in the bars, low in the churches.
Honestly, I would be more scared if I broke down in a town that had more churches.
I agree.
I would feel more comfortable in the town with more bars.
Have you seen the show Midnight Mass?
Yeah.
So like
Is that hot priest? Mm.
I know so that's not where I was going. But I was thinking like that's how I would feel in a town where if I broke down with a ton of churches or like the weird people.
Like
there.
you were there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be like hey everybody.
Right. So let's set the stage. At the time of the kidnapping, the country is like going crazy. The Zodiac killer is currently active in 1976. It's 2 years after the kidnapping of Patty Hearst, which we actually covered on the show before. Charles Manson had only been in prison for 5 years at this point. So his murders and his Manson family are fresh on everyone's mind. And there are other serial killers that are starting to like kind of stir up and become active. And this event definitely added to the feeling of things just going haywire in the country. And people remarked, even who lived in other countries, if it can happen in a town like that, it could happen anywhere. And so this had sort of like a worldwide ripple effect.
I don't think they're thinking that anymore.
Well, maybe not now.
Around the world. I don't
No.
think they're thinking, oh, if that could happen at a small American town. I'd
No.
say like mass murders happen in small American towns daily.
Yeah, but at the time, it
This
caused...
was not a mass murder, though. But
no.
Okay. Yes.
No murder.
No murders.
So
okay, I'm jumping the gun. Okay.
It's July 15th, 1976. 26 school children, 19 girls and 7 boys, get transported to the Chowchilla swimming pool after their summer school day. In Chowchilla, I guess they do summer school, like regular school subjects, math, English, all that. And they were going on a pool outing after. They got back on the bus, who was driven by a man who was from the town named Ed Ray. He was a super respected man in the community. An article I read said he was like a no-nonsense farmer that looked like he could probably kick your ass, but he was super kind and all the kids loved him and people knew he was super dependable. And he just volunteered to drive school buses around half the time. So
I like when people are no nonsense. What does that mean?
too.
Like, listen, no, not even a shred of shenanigans around here. Okay.
On our text messages. I mean, right?
Like, whoa, no nonsense. All right.
That day, Ed made 3 of the 4 stops they were supposed to make, and the 4th one would have been to drop off the rest of the kids back at the school. But around 4 p.m., the bus was on the way back, and the road was blocked by a white cargo van. 3 men. So very calmly, one of the guys who ended up hijacking them knocks on the door of the school bus and asks to be let in. Ed opens the door, and then 3 men came aboard with guns, stockings over their head. And at that point, they proceeded to board and hijack the bus. They drove the bus to another location, and they forced Ed Ray and the children into 2 different vans. These vans had obviously been made ready for this kidnapping. They were soundproofed and all the windows were painted black so nobody could see in. So I can't imagine how terrified these kids must have been.
No. Did it say free candy on the side of the van too? I mean, I'm not saying, obviously they didn't have a choice to get in the van, but it sounds like the sussest van ever.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like they had hidden
blacked out windows. It's like
they
free
had hidden
kittens.
Right. Come in and get some candy, guys.
Yeah.
No, they didn't really have a choice. They were basically offloaded off the back of the bus with a gun pointed at them.
Yeah.
Into 2 different vans. The kids tried to calm themselves during the subsequent van rides by singing "If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands" and all these other songs. I know.
How old were they?
They ranged in age from like 5 to 14. So there were some like really little kids on the bus. I know. It's awful. Later on, Ed Ray told the police that the men had a chrome-handled pistol and a sawed-off shotgun. One paper described the ride with the kidnappers as being described as so quiet it was violent. Like there was just this air of complete tension on the bus because while they were hijacking it, one guy stayed on the bus with the gun pointed on everybody. One guy drove the van behind the bus to their next location.
Wait, who was singing then? Where was it quiet and where was it singing?
So it was quiet on the bus on the way to the second location. And then after they forced the kids into the vans, the kids started trying to sing to make themselves feel better. I know.
I like singing when I'm sad too.
I know. And on the documentary, they were like, one of the survivors says, somebody suggested we sing "If You're Happy and You Know It." And he's like, but I wasn't happy, so I wasn't singing that.
Yeah, that's a juxtaposing.
Juxtaposing.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Juxtaposition.
I know what you're saying.
You know, they know.
So they drive the 2 vans to the California Rock and Gravel Quarry, which was about 110 miles from the fairgrounds where the kids had gone swimming. So
how long of a drive was that?
I mean, probably close to 2 hours, if not more, depending on the roads.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So the kids are stuck in the back of these vans for 2 hours and they have no idea where they're going. It's completely black. So the kidnappers pull the vans into this area that's been covered with like a tarp or a tent or something. And when they get out, the kids see that they're in the middle of this area. There's just this big open hole in the ground with a ladder leading down. So later, even in psychological interviews, the kids would describe their time in that area as being in the hole. Like that's the memory they have of where they went, was they were in the hole. So what had happened was the kidnappers had buried a truck trailer underground under like several feet of dirt. Inside the truck trailer were several mattresses, some pit toilets, basically like a hole on a box. There was a small amount of food like Wonder Bread and peanut butter, but definitely not enough to last for multiple days with 26 kids. As the kids were forced to climb down into the hole, the kidnappers would stop them and write their names and all their ages on a hamburger wrapper that they were carrying. So
organized.
Super organized. They also forgot to deliver their ransom note, which is the whole purpose for this, but we'll get to that later.
Wow, guys.
So the kids had on like clothes with bathing suits, so they even forced both the bus driver to strip down to his underwear, and then they forced some of the kids to strip their outer layers of clothing before they crawl down the ladder into the hole. After that,
just to add insult to injury and make them fucking cold.
Or maybe worrying that somehow they would use their clothes to escape or something. That wasn't really described, but it just seems so like dehumanizing. Like they're little kids. Like you make them stand around in their bathing suits.
Yeah.
I think they also took a photograph like of every kid and forced them to like stand there while they like took their picture before they crawled down there so that they could use it later to try to get ransom money.
God, the trauma. I can't imagine for the kids and their parents.
So, yeah, so they remove the ladder. The kidnappers remove the ladder. They cover the opening of the hole. So now the kids are like down in this trailer and they can see up like pretty far to where they were. And unbeknownst to the kids, they put a piece of sheet metal over the hole and 2 100-pound truck batteries to hold it in place. Yeah.
Dude, getting buried alive sounds like one of like it's like being put in outer space or in the ocean. Like you could not be more isolated. How scary is that?
So scary. And as far as air, there are only 2 small air shafts that they left into the trailer, and they had run hoses up to above the ground with just a few fans running on batteries to pump air into the hole. And Ed Ray said from the very beginning he was worried that the ceiling was going to cave in.
Oh my God.
Now, I will say that in the documentary, most of the info comes from either children or younger relatives of the people who were there, or comes from some of the victims themselves. Not all of them by far, but
what children are talking?
The children who were there, they're adults now, but they were the victims at the time.
They're the survivors. The survivors are talking in the documentary describing what happened.
Okay. Yes. So that's who describes the majority of this, but Ed Ray does not actually talk, the bus driver, because he's passed away since. So meanwhile, up on the surface, Ed Ray was a very reliable driver. And so people were suspicious and reporting their kids missing by 15 minutes after they didn't arrive home. The kids were 15 minutes late and the parents were like, something bad happened. No way he'd be late. Word immediately spreads through town and to the local news stations that the bus is missing. Parents start to form search posses like immediately. They pick up their CB radios, that was pretty common at the time, and form what they call like a CB posse. They get out on their trucks and they start driving all over town and surrounding areas to look for the bus or the kids, both.
Wait, sorry, but why do they call it a posse? Like that sounds like hard. I think we should, when we start getting together for our annual retreats, we should be like rounding up the posse, y'all. Like, I don't know. It sounds instead of like a search team, like it sounds like they went out with fucking like shotguns and were like,
well,
Get out, motherfucker.
I mean, pretty close. Like one guy like jumps in his Jeep and he doesn't even have any of the kids. He like jumps in his Jeep. He gets a bunch of other parents in trucks. These are some of them are like, labor hardened Western farmers who are like, all right, let me grab my radio and my flashlight, maybe my gun, I don't know, and start looking.
Dude,
They
if I had a gun and somebody took my kids or my my community's kids, you bet I'd have that gun out. So I should stop admitting to so many
potential
things
felonies.
on the, yeah, so many potential felonies mentioned on the podcast. Look, I'm going to say it now. Habeas corpus. Hocus pocus. I didn't do it. What is habeas corpus? Do you know?
Isn't that?
I don't know. Whatever. It's not relevant. It's okay. You keep going.
So, but it's pretty interesting because it's not just the parents of the kids that are ready. Like this is this town's kids, and the whole town is like, we're finding them. So after 24 hours, there's no communications for ransom and no clues to the disappearance, which they got shortly after that. But the point is they don't know why the kids are gone. They're just like poof out of thin air, and they haven't received any demands for money, so they have no idea what's going on.
These motherfuckers are writing shit on a hamburger wrapper and forgot to deliver the ransom note. Like they are really bad.
Yeah. It's like in Austin Powers where he has something guarded by like an incompetent watchman or whatever. And it's like that, like 3 incompetent kidnappers.
Yeah. Just what's on one? Who's on 2? Like 3 Stooges.
Well, and the amount of planning they do, which we'll talk about a little later, to get here, and then they're like, "Oh, that silly thing called a ransom note. Totally
shit.
forgot
You
about
didn't
that.
send it, Bob? Fuck.
No, you were supposed to send it, Mike. Like,
Yeah. Oy.
So, the people in the town don't know what this is from or what the reason for the kidnapping is. None of them are from rich or wealthy families. 2 of them are the children of migrant workers who make very little money. So a lot of people in town are speculating like maybe worst of all, it's just from a bunch of horrible people trying to get attention. And then will there be a way to get their kids back?
Ugh. That would be so scary. Like it would be so scary when the ransom request hadn't come through yet. Yeah, because you're like, so did these people want to take my kid just to murder them or sell them or like what? Yeah.
Yeah, nobody had any idea. But 400 reporters, 400 reporters swarmed the town. That is about 1 for every 10 people who lived in Chowchilla at the time. It's an amazing amount of reporters.
That sounds like a record-breaking reporter gathering or something. That's a lot.
Yeah. They were like, who called 400 of us? But in this case, we're not exaggerating. Like there are literally 400 reporters here. The residents of Chowchilla later reported feeling like the tragedy was being treated like the reporter's winning lottery ticket. Like if I can break the Chowchilla story, I'm going to be famous, which is pretty shitty.
For sure. That's why there was 400 of them there.
Even sheriffs, all the sheriffs from nearby towns also showed up in town. Everyone was like, we're here to do stuff, report on stuff. So they have all these people like swarming this town, and the parents still have no idea what's going on with their kids.
Wait, just sheriffs from like neighboring counties?
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool, right? Like they're offering assistance. I feel like the FBI should be more like, who are you going to call right now, though?
I was getting there.
Okay.
The FBI walks into town, but they weren't being very helpful. They were super dismissive of the sheriff. The sheriff knew everything in town. And the one news article said the FBI guy walked into the room and they were like, he walks up to some nobody and starts talking to him, and they point him to the sheriff, whose name was Ed Bates. And he's a guy who like always walked around in his cowboy hat and his giant belt buckle. And he's like, no, sorry, man, that's the sheriff. And the FBI guy's like, yeah, whatever. And never like didn't go talk to him.
Okay, that is not how they act on Criminal Minds. They're generally like very respectful, so I don't like that.
This is not the BAU on Criminal Minds. This is like
Did you know that's not a real job? Like it used to be, but profiling's not a real job anymore.
anymore.
And people
Yeah.
think they can like still go to school for it and stuff, which is just sad because like I would have that dream too, but you guys, it's not real. Just FYI.
It's not real.
Yeah.
Um so things are mass chaos in Chowchilla. So um back in the hole, back with the kids. Ed Ray, the bus driver, he tries to get the kids to calm down as much as possible. So after about an hour, they really have no sense of time. Some of them think they were down there for days at this point. It's been hours. He tries to get them to sleep and calm down. It's super hot down there, obviously, because it's like in a dirt hole in the middle of the summer in a metal trailer.
Oh my God, I forgot that it was summer.
Yeah, middle of the summer.
I am getting claustrophobic and heat stroke, and I can't breathe just listening to this.
Well, you're not going to like this because on the documentary, they say that at some point, the small batteries that were keeping the fans running, like they could feel a little bit of air, they stop. So all that's there is like this tubing. And the kids later reported feeling like they felt like it started to get hotter and hotter because there was no airflow. And they all like it was getting hard to breathe because it was so stifling. So the kids,
I don't like that.
we're
so stressed out.
We're almost there. The kids, at this point, the kids decide they're getting out. They're like, that's it. We're out of here. So the kids themselves hatch the plan to try to get out of the hole. And so they try to get Ed Ray to help. And at first he's like, no, because if I help you and they find out, they're going to shoot us or they might kill us. And they're like, or we could just suffocate down in this hole, like start stacking mattresses, dude.
Yeah.
So
What?
they talk about in the
He's
documentary.
like, no nonsense, you guys. You know that about me. You know
Yes.
there's no nonsense.
Yeah,
like
I'm not here to party.
This is the time for nonsense.
So they're saying like kids who are like 10 and 11 are like dragging and using every little muscle in their body to stack all the mattresses up to the top of the hole, which they eventually get Ed Ray to help, and Ed does, and they get a pretty big stack up to where the sheet metal is. So at the top, Ed is able to slightly wedge the sheet metal to the side, and
I'm sorry, I can't. This man was like, listen, guys, I'm going to fucking let us all die in here before I help you. Like, that was his first response. They had to be like, no, dude, you're the adult and we're all in a hole in the desert. And you can carry mattresses better than us.
And I think that in his defense, like he didn't want them to die in the hole, but he was worried, like, what if he starts moving mattresses and the kidnappers come down and see him doing it and they shoot him? Like, these kids have no one. And he thought, like, well, I need to stay alive to protect these kids if it comes to that from these men.
Okay. All right. I get that. I thought he was just really sticking to his no nonsense policy. And I was like,
but check out this like beast mode move. So in the documentary, they talk about how Ed basically, they're able to stick to like wedge a little hole. He pushes up the sheet metal, which has 2 100-pound batteries on it. So he's on a stack of mattresses, pushing up this giant piece of a metal. And one of the 14-year-old kids, a kid named Michael Marshall, sticks his hand up through the like little crack, his little arm, and starts shoving at the batteries until he is able to muscle them off the lid, and they're able to move the sheet metal aside.
I'm just thinking, what if they
say that in the documentary? They're like, all that's holding his arm from being chopped off is Ed Ray's pure willpower.
What a brave little soldier. Jesus.
So it gets better. Michael, but he's 14. He crawls up into what's above the sheet metal, which ends up being this tiny little hole. And he starts digging dirt from around him down into the hole he's in, because there's even more dirt like above him. So he starts digging it out and like pushing it down into the hole, like the trailer. He does this for like
I just caught a glimpse of my face in the camera.
I know I was watching it and I was like, is he going to get out? Like the kid is talking about, as an adult, he's talking about getting out. And I'm like, did he make it? You know?
Yeah.
So eventually this one kid digs out all this extra dirt and they're able to clear basically like a hole to the top, which isn't that far out after that. And then they start to dig out all the debris and they are able to get out to the surface. So the kids all report later that during this time they were starting to have hallucinations. One little girl reported that she was able to see through the solid hatch and see the kidnappers asleep on top of the truck trailer. Like she was very sure she could see that actually happening.
How long were they in there before they
16 hours. 16 hours.
Jesus. With like, I'm guessing no water.
Very little bit of water.
Dude, if I go sometimes a few hours without water, I'm like, I'm dying, which I know sounds like a really fucked up first world problem. Like now I feel actually terrible for saying that because I have access to clean drinking water all the time. And you know what? That is something I'm very fucking grateful for. But I'll start feeling sick, which makes me start feeling anxious if I'm too dehydrated.
And you talking about needing water, I'm like, why is my mouth so dry all of a sudden?
So parched. It's like a desert in my throat.
So, this is where a lot of the reports are there's a lot of different reports about the actual like final escape from the hole. A couple articles say that 2 of the kids got out and went and got help. The documentary, they sort of say all of these kids eventually, and Ed Ray in his underwear, like these dirty kids crawl up out of the hole and they all go together to get help. So there's a couple reports. I'm inclined to believe the kids who were part of it. So probably that is the most likely story.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So they get out of the hole and they realize that they are buried in a rock quarry. There's machinery all around them, and they are like, there's, you know, like the weird, like the metal tubing and all that stuff. And
they're buried in there. They're still under another layer of.
No. Like that's where the trailer had been buried. Like when they come up, they realized they had been buried under like a rock quarry factory area.
It's funny because you say buried and I say buried.
Oh.
Although buried kind of like burrow sounds like it would make more sense, but I've just always said buried. I'm going to keep going with that.
I don't know. I don't know if that's where I'm from originally, which is the Northeast, or the fact that I've lived in the South now for like 20 years. I don't know which.
You live on the East Coast in Southern New York. Get out of here. The South.
It's considered the South where I live.
Is it?
Yes.
She's in Virginia, you guys. I thought that was East. You know what?
It is East, but also South.
This isn't a geography quiz, okay? So, okay.
And if we were taking a geography quiz, we would know that all of the Eastern Seaboard is not New York, but... Or would we?
Tell that to me.
I think you're my only friend who thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
So they spot a guard shack and they are all like walking to like all scared, like they think these kidnappers could be anywhere. So they're like, they run for this guard shack and this guy's like, oh my God, you're the kids that have been missing. I've seen you all over the news. So they call the cops. The kids are first loaded. I don't know how they made it back onto another bus and taken to a place called the Santa Rita jail. because it was the nearest place with an active medical facility. And they show them on the documentary. The kids are like, we got to be put in these white inmate jumpers, and they were so big on us. So we are like flapping our wings like we could fly. And they remember that they gave him like a carton of milk and an apple and a sandwich or something. And after they checked out all the kids and realized that the kids were all fine, no major medical issues, they brought the kids home to Chowchilla, where they were reunited with their parents on July 17th, shortly before midnight.
So July 17th is my birthday. So this happened on like the 11-year anniversary of me being preborn.
Isn't it the 21st anniversary?
No, I was born on July 17th.
1987.
Oh, so this was 11 years before that.
I was like thinking you're born in 97.
So it happened on the anniversary of my minus 11th birthday. Just if I can insert myself into this. So I just had like, of course, in my mind, I went to like, no, there's another scene that happens. Because, you know, in scary movies where it's like, oh, okay, they saved the kid. Like he's not in demon world anymore or whatever. And then it's like and then they open their eyes and it's like the shadowy figure is there. I was thinking like, what if they ran up to the guard tower and then the guard was like one of the kidnappers? I'm so glad that didn't happen.
I know. I was watching the documentary and I was waiting for that to happen. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be one of the kidnappers. And they were like, no, the guy's like, I know you. You were the kids on the bus.
I think it's so often, also not just in movies, but in true crime stories, it's always like, oh, you think it's going to get better? No, sorry. It's going to get worse first.
It's going to get worse
so
first.
I'm glad that it went not how I was thinking.
It went the other way.
Yeah.
So they get back and the documentary shows this like massive like mob scene. The even the adults are crying because the one guy's like, I remember being taken off that bus and then I had my face buried into my mom's chest and I was being carried away. And they're just like, they remember how they feel still as kids, like reuniting with their parents, which is just like my heart, you know?
Yeah.
So right away, everyone assumes that Ed Ray was completely led the escape efforts. And they asked him to give a statement to the news cameras about what had happened. And later his nephew said of Ed, Ed's sole purpose, this is a quote, Ed's sole purpose during this whole episode was the safety of the kids. He saw it as his job to get those kids home safe. And that's why he handled the ordeal the way he did. That's why when they pulled a gun on him, he stayed put. He was a strong enough man that one blow from his fist would have laid those guys out. But he was too worried about the kids being hurt. So.
But the kids were the real heroes of the story.
Yeah, they were. And we'll get to that in a minute because what happened to them was kind of not fair. When the investigators started digging up the bus, they decided to search the home of the owner of the quarry. And not digging up the bus, digging up the trailer. And it's a man named Fred Woods III. His son, Fred Woods IV, was mysteriously missing, and they start finding all of this stuff on Fred Woods' property. So the sheriff puts out an APB on Fred Woods and two people who were known to be his associates. When questioned, Fred Woods Sr. says, I can't tell you if I have one son or 10 sons. Like, what does that even mean? And the mother says, can you please get me a piece of paper to write a letter to Lana Turner, who's like a celebrity? And the police are like, what? You guys are weird.
So they're kooky, these two.
Yeah, they're kind of kooky. And so they start finding all this evidence at the Woods estate. They find like tons and tons of guns. The documentary shows all these snapshots of like way more weaponry than they had with them at the time of the kidnapping. They find the partially completed but not ever sent ransom note. where they
Come
attempted
on,
to
guys.
say like we want $5 million and we belong to the cult of Beelzebub, but it's not even spelled right. And then it just like
Beelzebub has a devil set aside for me, for me, for me.
and then the ransom note just literally trails off.
So you think you can stop me and spit in my eyes? Okay,
Just saying.
sorry. I had to take a song break. It's been a lot happening.
It's been stressful. And the ransom note was for $5 million. The other two men that they think are with Fred Woods the fourth, I'm just gonna call him Woods from now on,
Woods
are Woods 4. the one with Woods 4 are siblings named James and Richard Schoenfeld, and they're 24 and 22 years old. So the three of them hear that the kids have been found, and they're like, jig is up. We're not getting our money. Wouldn't have gotten it anyway because they didn't send a ransom note. So Fred and James first, Woods 4 and James flee to a safe house that they have in Reno, Nevada. From there, Woods 4 is like, I can't say Woods 4 this many times. So Woods is like, bye, buddy. You're on your own. I'm going to Canada. I got a fake passport and I'm out of here. So he flies to Vancouver with his fake passport. James is like left all alone and is like, what am I supposed to do? So he drives first to Idaho, and then he leaves Idaho and tries to go to Canada, but the guys at the border like think he's too nervous, so he gets turned around because they're like, no, you're not coming in. So he thinks like, okay, well, let me offload all these guns I got in the back of my car. So he goes and sells a bunch of guns at a sporting goods store, tries to go back to Canada, but he forgot two guns that were like in the dashboard. So they turn around again. So he goes back and tries to resell and back into Canada. And finally, he gave up and headed back to California. He started to feel guilty, and he kept this like extensive diary during this time, and he started to feel super guilty about what they had done. And so he's like, never mind, I'm going to turn myself in. It's not worth it.
He felt guilty, or he was like, I'm not getting away with this.
No, the little snippets of his journal basically, you see him sort of evolve to feeling like, why did we even do this? Like, this doesn't, we shouldn't have done it.
Super cool to totally traumatize 26 kids and then all of their parents and the bus driver.
Yeah, but oh, poor me, right? So
always
he heads back toward California. Woods, I'm so confused. Woods goes to Vancouver, and he stops in a motel, and he asks the motel clerk for work. Like, can I work here? And the hotel manager, by the way, says like, seemed like kind of a dunce. Like, he just sat around the lobby for a couple days and like watched TV reruns and, ate snacks.
I just imagine him wearing like a big cone on his head, though, the dunce cap.
Yeah,
exactly. Guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, like legitimately back in the olden days, whenever that was, I don't know, 1800s or something, if they were like, you're a stupid child, now go wear the stupid hat in the corner. And they would have to wear a big hat and sit in the corner, and it was called the dunce cap because it basically just mean like, you're a fucking dumbass, now go sit in the corner and get mocked about how stupid you are. They were so mean.
This guy is a dunce because he starts sending letters to people he knows, including a friend of his who is a screenwriter, and says like, I think my crime would make a good movie of the week and would make me some good money. Eventually, the cop.
A dummy. Oh my god!
It's like the guy,
like, because it's like a super run of the mill crime that happens all the time. They definitely wouldn't know it was me.
Right. Like that. It was that other guy that kidnapped 26 kids.
Yeah. That other incident.
So eventually the cops find out that he is sending letters. And so they basically corner him at a post office and they arrest him and bring him back. Richard Schoenfeld, within like 2 days of them putting out the APB, he gets his dad to give him a rich lawyer, and he's like, I'm not doing any of that, and he turned himself in. He's like, all right, fine. Here I am.
I'm so curious what these fucking sentences are going to be.
He was held on once they all get down there, a judge holds them on $1 million bail. So the whole like reason for the kidnapping was because they had been inspired by a scene at the end of the movie Dirty Harry, and they cover this in the documentary. At the end of that, a man kidnaps a school bus full of children. It's a movie.
Sorry, I'm fucking. I'm breaking. I'm breaking the rule, and I'll make a time note. I
just saw it. Can you please put that one on the screen?
It's Crowlixy. Just said happens to the best of us. I hate when I accidentally kidnap 26 children. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you. Okay, timestamp. What was that? Like 50, 30-ish?
Yes.
Okay.
So Woods had this obsession with buying old junky cars and fixing them up. So he decided he was going to try to make some quick money to start a business of basically flipping cars. And I don't mean flipping them over. I mean like house flipping, like fix them up and sell them. The killer was like he and his friends were both like were all independently wealthy. Their parents, they weren't from Chowchilla, and they had all this money. Like supposedly Woods's parents had set him up with a trust fund that would pay him out $100 million later in life.
So they just did this for kicks or what?
No, they did this because he didn't want to wait for his $100 million. And the reason he gave is because recently Ronald Reagan had signed a $5 billion like California budget bill into action. And he said, well, I thought the state wouldn't really miss $5 million. And the only thing I could think to make the money with was kidnapping. Yeah. The logical leaps you must take to get to where they got. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Also, there are a lot of places in California where people have a lot of money. Like,
yeah,
there's some rich areas in California. So not really sure why they chose this town.
So I'm glad you said that. God, it's like you could see my next bullet. So
I can't, you guys.
They actually picked Chowchilla because it was a small town, and the roadways and like the how to travel in and out of it wouldn't be too complex. Like it was a very easy place to get to. Mm-hmm. They originally thought about doing it in a bigger city, but they were like, or in San Francisco, they were talking about doing it in the city, and they were like, no, we would never be able to steal the school bus and like nowhere to bury it.
There are so many hills and shit. That would really be a ridiculous plan on their part.
So they actually had done some fair amount of research in scoping out a bunch of towns, and they finally attended an event at the Chowchilla Fairgrounds and settled on the town as where they should kidnap the kids from. And they originally had all these grand plans that involved disabling the driver with chloroform, hijacking a plane after they got their ransom money, dropping dummies out of the plane to escape. But ultimately, they ended up with burying the kids and then forgetting to send a ransom note. So
this sounds like a
poor
group
execution
of like little boys.
Yes.
Who are like, oh my God, but how cool. You guys. No, listen, how cool would it be if we like stole a school bus and then we had a plane and then we fucking stole the plane and then we dumped dummies out of it and then we went like that's a national treasure movie.
Well, they do say later that like everything they did was informed by their extremely limited, closed-minded knowledge of the world and the movies they had seen. Like that's what they based this on. It worked in a movie, so it should work for us.
Totally.
The night they get arrested, some of the people in town call the sheriff and they're like, so what would you do if we came and picked the guys up and hung them? And the sheriff's like, well, I'd have to shoot you because that's illegal. Like, that they're getting out of here only lawfully. And so that night, someone actually drove by the jail and shot out all the windows trying to get at them. They didn't kill anybody or
Oh,
hurt
shit.
them, but like these people are serious. Like, don't fuck with our kids.
We talked about Skidmore, Missouri recently,
Mm-hmm.
and 46 people in the town watched this guy get murdered, and it was like, I don't see anything.
They were like, "Oh,
Which
it's a
fair
shame
enough.
that car paint job got ruined or
Yeah,
something."
that guy
Like,
was the worst, and he had to go. But I think that it seems like in some of these towns that are a little bit more, remote, if you will.
yeah.
They don't have any problem with some back alley justice,
Well,
and I like it.
yeah, I know. I wish the sheriff had been like, I don't know. I'm gonna be at dinner from 5 to 8 tonight. I don't know who's gonna watch the jail, but
I
don't do that.
I will not confirm nor deny whether or not I think that would have been
I've
a
left
cool idea.
the door open. So a judge in Madera County that November orders that the trial gets moved from there because there's no way they'll get a fair trial in the same county that Chowchilla's in. So Woods and both the Schoenfelds plead guilty to 27 counts of kidnapping for ransom in 1977. They originally had like 18 other counts of robbery, which got dropped. And they were reported in court to be very like stoic and they weren't talking to anybody, but it was because their super high priced defense lawyers were trying to hopefully prove that because the kids hadn't been inflicted with bodily harm, the crime wasn't really very serious.
It's actually been proven that emotional and mental abuse is just as, if not, let's not trauma compare, but just as traumatic as sexual or physical abuse. People tend to think that like if you can't see the marks of abuse on somebody's body, if it doesn't involve physical pain, that it's like not traumatizing.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what the whole thing with this case was. So the Ed Ray and the kids all get up and testify one by one. One little girl said she felt the air was running out. All the kids are crying. And after this, the judge was like, okay, no, the emotional damages here were just as bad as bodily harm, and finds them guilty of 3 counts of kidnapping with bodily harm, which normally carries a sentence of life in prison without possibility of parole. However, so the kidnappers each get 27 life sentences without the possibility of parole. But later, this gets overturned because their really good, expensive lawyers go back and argue that, they didn't inflict bodily harm. And so that case should get thrown out. And so they're able to get that part of it overturned, which makes them eligible for parole.
but they're still in jail.
They're still in jail, but now the
okay.
kids are worried, like, oh my God, what happens if they get parole? Now they're going to come back and get us.
Wait, they're still worried about that?
Not now, but like at the time, the kids
Right.
and their families were like,
Right.
so, the documentary said that basically over time, the onus was put on the victims to be at all the parole hearings to make sure that these guys stayed in jail. Because, one of the survivor's sons says, if my mom hadn't been at every single parole hearing, like reliving her trauma, basically, these guys would have been out in 1980 something.
The 70s and still, but like the 70s were so bad for victims. It's crazy. Like, I think back then, I don't think rape became a felony until
I'd have to look it up, but
not
it wasn't
long enough ago. But it was just
No.
like a misdemeanor. It was like slap on the wrist. Like, hey, you can't. Hey, now you can't be going around doing that.
And then they get they get several high-ranking politicians also jump in and start trying to help get these guys exonerated or on parole early.
Ew! Why?
Right. Who knows?
Boys Club? Oh,
Yeah, Boys
fuck
Club.
yourselves.
Dad's
Ken,
had
Bob.
money.
Ugh.
Actually, the current governor of California, Gavin Newsom, his father was one of those men trying to parole, and they show him in the documentary giving giving a speech where he's like, who was actually harmed during this? Nobody was actually physically harmed, and we have these guys sitting in jail for what? Like,
You know who's a super big piece of shit?
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. And apparently his dad.
And apparently the apple does not fall off that tree.
He kept fucking Leslie Van Houten in prison for so long to appease the families of, like, essentially, well, just it's like also rich people, whatever. It's so complex. You guys go listen to that episode, Leslie Van Houten. It's great.
So the Schoenfelds get paroled in 2012 and 2015 and move somewhere up in the mountains.
What? You said they're still in jail.
No, this is 2012 and 2015. So no, they're not still in jail now. They get paroled in 2012 and 2015. And they move to some remote area in the mountains to take care of their aging mother, and they never talk to anyone again. They admit later, like, this isn't because we're crazy. We just wanted some money. And they said they wanted money to buy nicer cars to keep up with the other people that were living near them, because those guys had Ferraris and they didn't want to look like they didn't have nice cars.
Listen, we're not mentally ill. We're just total fucking assholes.
And then I know, right? Like, we're just like rich, spoiled assholes. So then Woods, like, he gets paroled, I think, shortly before he dies. And but they find out that while he was in prison, he was given so much access to like phones and stuff, and he would sneak phones in. While he was in prison, he managed to run a used car business, a Christmas tree lot, and buy a mansion. Wild.
A Christmas tree lot? Like, what?
Because the holidays are hard and you need some money. So the after effects. So the biggest impact of this kidnapping was the after effects. First of all, it really affected the town. A reporter at the time of the kidnapping said, after the kidnapping, you didn't see kids in the streets anymore. And if they were, parents were always holding their hands. Kids were not out playing with other kids anymore. They never left. The current mayor of Chowchilla, like the guy who's the mayor now, he was 3 at the time of the kidnapping. And he said that, you know, as he was a kid, the subject was super taboo in town. It was something no one wanted to talk about. And if you did want to talk about it, you asked privately at home. He said that when he was younger, he recalled meeting a family from out of the country. And when they heard he was from Chowchilla, they were like, oh, were you on the bus? And they were from New Zealand, and said even where they were, it had affected people to the point where like parents were keeping their kids home from school in the immediate days after the kidnapping.
I grew up way after, well, no. I was like, I grew up way after the 70s. It's okay, Ashley, chill. You grew up in the 80s and 90s. So I feel very lucky, though, that I was like able to go play freely in the streets. Yeah. I lived in a very small community in Hawaii, and luckily there was like a real trust of like, oh, you need to leave your doors unlocked, which I don't recommend. Listen, like anywhere where you live, I just lock your doors, you guys. It's not that hard, and your windows.
But I mean,
I understand though, because the 70s and 80s and shit were like fucking crazy. Kids were just like going missing, like hot cakes.
And at the time, no one knew about childhood trauma and how it could affect children over the course of their lives. People saw no physical injuries on the kids and assumed like, oh, they're fine. One mental health expert examined the kids and said, I predict that only one of the 26 kids will possibly have emotional issues after this.
Was that expert a woman by any chance?
No.
Okay.
But a woman, an expert named Lenore Kerr, came to town 5 months after the Chowchilla kidnapping and discovered that every single child was having issues. She in the documentary, the survivors say, yeah, she was using it as a research opportunity because she was studying childhood trauma in children, but she was the only one listening to us. So like they didn't mind talking to her about it because she's the only one of the only people that seemed to care about them. She had the opportunity essentially to study kids who were scared to death but hadn't actually died. That's how they phrase it.
Oh, gosh.
So she does a 4 to 5 year follow up study after that and interviews all the kids again and found that 4 years later, they all reported feeling anxiety about the event that was different than their regular life anxiety. They all still suffered intense fears. Almost all of them were intensely fearful of any strangers. 15 of them were afraid of the dark. Some of them were afraid of vehicles. One little girl, if she saw a white van, wouldn't allow her parents to go like drive anywhere near it, or she would freak out. Many of them even feared being within their homes or in their own bedrooms. And most of them reported feeling really embarrassed and vulnerable to admit they were part of the kidnapping. The psychologist said, well, this isn't typical of kids who are like, do something heroic. Like most kids want to tell you about it. And these kids were like, please don't tell anyone I was part of it. I don't want to feel, because they felt so vulnerable still about the event.
Also, when your parents and everybody around you is saying, listen, we don't talk about this. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So they felt so
you bury
shameful.
that deep down. Yeah. And then that turns into shame. It's classic victim shaming. Man, we love to shame a victim, don't we?
So
not us, but
the one
people.
I know, like I love victim blaming. Said not. So
not us. Yeah.
No. So one of the survivors, her name's Jennifer Brown Hyde. She was 9 years old when the bus was taken. She said her self-esteem took a large blow. She couldn't go anywhere without people saying to her like, oh, you're in the kidnapping. How are you? How do you feel? Like staring at her. She said her parents told her that she would sleepwalk into their bedroom and say like in her sleep, they're killing me and stuff like that.
Oh my God. So they all had PTSD, but at that time, PTSD was called shell shock, and they thought that only veterans had it.
Right. She said it had a multi-generational effect because it got harder to deal with when she had children, but she worked really hard to not let it define her. Like they show her in the documentary, she lives in, I think she lives somewhere where there are a lot of tornadoes now. Maybe it's Kansas. And she said most people near me have like a storm shelter, but I can't go underground. So I had a special one brought into my yard, and she had this like metal and concrete structure like built in her yard that only goes down a few steps because her family knows she cannot go into a storm shelter even now.
Yeah.
Mike, the one who actually like saved everybody basically by digging them out, said essentially he had been the town's hero and no one acknowledged him. So he had this sense of like, I don't know who I am anymore. I thought I was this heroic person and nobody knows about it. And his parents tried to move away from the town to get space from it. And he said that on the first anniversary of the kidnapping, he punched couch pillows for 2 hours every single day for 2 weeks just to try to make it like go away. He ended up going out, he said, and getting drunk for every night for like 10 years because he just needed it to go away and it wouldn't. He ended up in rehab 7 times, according to the documentary. And
hey, I've been 5. So listen, guy, let's go toe to toe with rehabs. Okay. I could get a couple more rounds in. Listen, life's crazy.
You don't have to compete. Everything's not a competition, Ashley.
No, it's me just throwing in some humor because you have to make jokes about the fact that you've been to rehab 5 times if you have. Also, literally several people have reached out to me recently and told me that they're struggling with alcohol. So like several. You guys feel free to keep reaching out. I'm always happy to talk about that shit. There is no shame in my game, and there should be no shame in yours.
There's zero shame in my game. We see you and we support you.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with addiction. It's super common and hearts. We love you. Okay, you can finish the story now.
He said that before on the documentary, he said, before the kidnapping, I could see my future ahead of me, like this bright path. And after the kidnapping, I couldn't see anything. And so this led him to this life. And all he ever wanted was to be in the rodeo. He was a cowboy and he wanted to be a cowboy. And so, all of that got taken away, but now he is sober, and they show him at the end that he's learning how to become a rodeo rider, and they show him like competing at a rodeo and like
Yes.
roping the bull. And it's
How'd
really
you know
cool.
what my next question was?
So he's literally back on the horse.
And
Another
the wagon.
Right. Another survivor, Larry Park, I think he was 6 at the time of the kidnapping. He said that for his whole life, he replayed it over and over again in his head. And all he did for his whole life was fantasize about how he would get the kidnappers. Like he would hurt them and kill them. And he said that he was quoted as saying, the demons were going to keep us forever. He actually, later in his life, he said that, believe what you do about religion. He said that he basically told God, like he was like, to be truthful, he could not forgive them. He like didn't know how. So he went into this sort of he went to the jail that the kidnappers were at and entered what was called a restorative justice program, which meant he would go get a chance to talk to the people who had wronged him to help.
So the actual kidnappers.
Yep. To help
Oh.
when he was an adult, and
Yeah.
to help himself and to help them, like maybe restore themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did this. He basically said, not only do I forgive you, but forgiving wasn't enough. And he had spent his whole life hating them. And so he asked for their forgiveness.
I don't know. Just like as a victim, I don't love the thought of asking my perpetrator for forgiveness.
No, but for him, he said
But
it like allowed him to
yeah,
move on.
If that's important for him, then yeah, all the more power to him. Absolutely. No, I think that there's, a Buddhist saying about, poisoning your own drink and expecting the other person to get hurt.
Right.
Something like that. But yeah, it's like often we think that forgiveness is for other people, but it's for us to stop carrying that anger and hurt around.
Well, now he like lives a very like different life. He is a counselor, and he is tries to help people who have trauma, and he's also a pastor at his own church. And then, some victims, Jody Heffington was one of the victims. She was one of the main people. She they talk in the documentary about how she was their mama bear. Like she went to every parole hearing and was like, I'm going to do this for all of us. And she told her story over and over and over again at these parole hearings. And her son says, after the first one of the brothers got parole, she went into a deep depression. She wouldn't eat. She was drinking a lot, and she ended up passing away at the age of 55, sadly, because she took on so much of a burden to try to keep them in jail. They put it on the victims to keep these guys in jail.
Cool.
Someone in the documentary said, it was 1976 and we thought they would all get over it. And then they talk in the documentary about how these kids really paved the way to understand what kids go through at things like school shootings. And they say, these are the reasons why there were counselors on site after Columbine happened, and why you see mental health professionals on the scene when these things happen is because of what happened in Chowchilla. So what they say is really these kids never got to know it, but they are absolute heroes because they paved the way for so many other kids to get care they did deserve when they go through a trauma.
Yeah. Fallon was like, Ashley, don't worry. There's not going to be heavy sexual assault or anything today. I was like, oh, cool. She's like, just 26 children getting heavily traumatized. It's fine.
I'm sorry. We're almost
No,
there.
it's okay. Hey, we're like we're trying to stay, we're trying to be ourselves and cover all the weird stuff that we like, but we're also trying to stay relevant, as the kids may say, right?
Yeah. And but we also care about victims, and so it's less that they, had to get kidnapped and more like the lives they lived and like how many kids, sad what they went through, but how many kids benefited because of what they went through and what they did.
And
Um
little side note, I know that some people prefer to be called victims, some people prefer to be called survivors. I've had people tell me that different vernacular that they prefer to be called. So, just
survivors is probably a
it's
better word.
yeah, and it's I think it's also personal to the people that it happens to, but just wanted to make like a little side note that we do understand that people do choose often what that makes them feel more comfortable, but we're coming from not their shoes. So
Yeah. The one woman who was in she was another one of the survivors. She actually moved back to Chowchilla and became a teacher at the school that she used to attend there. And she said it just makes her feel good that she is like, it is my responsibility to keep these kids safe every day they walk in here. And that like makes her feel happy. Like she can live a life keeping other kids at her school safe. Ed Ray, the bus driver, he tried to kind of live a really quiet life and ignore it. He reportedly hated the attention he got from being part of it. He turned down offers for books and interviews. People offered to ghostwrite his life story, and he was like, no. They sent him gifts like trips, but then he found out like he got a free trip, but then he had to pay sales tax on it. Was like, what the hell? Like, I got to pay sales tax on your gift? This is ridiculous. His nephew said he
no
was like
nonsense,
very
dude.
cantankerous about it. His nephew
Ooh,
said
good
that,
word.
yeah.
Like, good.
His
Yeah.
his nephew said that he tried to act like it didn't bother him, but sometimes he said they would like catch him out in his barn like crying to himself when he thought no one was watching. He died
Well,
at the
men don't cry, Fallon.
right now, and that
Especially not in the 70s.
right, exactly. He died at the age of 91, so he lived a nice long life with his family. But everyone he was on the bus with visited him before he passed away, which is really sweet.
Oh.
And his birthday was memorialized as a town holiday. I don't know if they still celebrate it, but for a long time, every year they would celebrate Ed Ray Day.
I hope they do still. That would be sad if they stopped. Is there a prison there in Chowchilla?
I think there's like a women's prison, I think, in Chowchilla or near Chowchilla. At the end of
I
the
remembered it having heard Chowchilla in a different context before.
Yeah, I think there's a women's prison. I just didn't mention it because it didn't have anything to do with it. But
Right.
at the end of the documentary, they show this really touching scene where Larry, that's the guy who became the pastor, he meets Mike, the guy who was like got them all out. He meets him for the first time since 1977. Mike is there with his mom, and Larry starts to cry and says, I just want you to know I'm standing here with my hero, and I'm so grateful that, he was there that day, and he's why we all survived. And Mike is like, finally, like, I didn't know how much I needed to hear that somebody acknowledged like what I did that day, but it
No.
really helped. So that was really sweet.
Oh my gosh. People just want to be seen. That's like the most basic thing that people want, I think, as humans.
So yeah, that's the end of the documentary. And we didn't, like we said, we didn't tell it from start to finish. I did tell it in the order it went in, but a lot of the details came from outside the documentary. So if you want to go watch it, it's actually a pretty quick watch. It's like 90 minutes and it goes really fast. And a lot of good like footage from around the time of the event.
And you get to hear from the survivors themselves.
Yes.
So you're
Yep.
giving it a binge? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm giving it a binge. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
And
And
that's on Max. Yes'm?
yes, on
Yes.
Max.
Okay.
And I will say that I did find a bunch of really cool articles about this that, one article did a super deep dive into the town and stayed in Chowchilla for a couple weeks and like talked to everyone they could. And when our episode comes out on the feed, we'll put all these in the sources. I would recommend, if this interested you, checking out some of these.
Cool. Well, I'm tired.
I'm sorry. It was a big story, so I couldn't get it in under an hour. I wouldn't have done it justice.
No, you did great. We need to do a story next that doesn't involve children.
I know. Yeah, I need a non-child story.
Why does everybody hate kids? What? Yeah, I don't know. It's fucked here, you guys. Welcome, and we're here to support you through the fuckery.
Well, psychotic psychology is not about kids, so that's going to be fun and exciting. Teenage kids, college kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say I might beg to differ because it is a lot of psychological trauma of teenagers. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. It's okay, you guys. Also, we have, what else do we have coming out? Let me look at the production calendar. Hey, we got some stuff that is not heavy as heck coming, so don't worry.
I know.
And the social psychology experiments are fucked, but they're also super interesting.
Fascinating.
So very excited to share that with y'all. That's all, folks.
That's that cat and that, as you would say.
Yeah, I would sometimes.
I feel tired after telling that. I felt like an emotional.
Yeah, we were going to record 2 episodes today, and I'm glad that I said, can we compromise and just do one? Because
for sure.
Now I want to go watch. I don't know. Do you have any recommendations of like anything good or funny or lighthearted?
Yeah, not a documentary, Ashley. Stay away from the documentary row on Max.
Well, I am halfway through American Nightmare right now on true crime. I mean, on Netflix.
Do you want anything lighthearted?
Yes,
am halfway through American Nightmare.
I'm asking for recommendations because that's all I have.
I have been watching, well, it's not lighthearted either, but I've been watching the show Reacher, which is really good. And I'm a big fan of that show. And we also, every night, me and my family watch funny animal videos on YouTube. And those are really fun.
Okay, that is a really cute tradition. I love
every night we watch
the fuck out of here.
We watch funny animal videos, like funny dog videos or funny cat videos. And there's like thousands of them on YouTube.
That is so fun. Okay, you guys. Well, that's a great recommendation. Go watch go watch some cute. Sometimes they'll like I cry when shit's too cute. I'm like, how dare you be the cutest puppy in the world? But
no, they're hilarious. Like the cat and the dog like chasing each other, or like they walk into the bathroom and the dog's got like the toilet seat over its head, like pulled off the toilet, and is like, "What? I didn't do it."
Yeah, so nothing too heartwarming.
No,
just funny. Okay, cool. Well, guys, thanks for being here. What? January is historically our lowest download month. And this last January, you guys, was our highest ever. So thank you so much to our new listeners for being here. Thank you to our listeners who have been riding or dying with us for a long time now. Thank you to the people who found us recently because of one thing and then decided to stick around. You guys all rock. Also, we've gotten some really great reviews lately. Thank you so much. We'll read some of them next time. But today we're going to wrap it up. So go watch a puppy video and
Go watch puppies.
Bye.
We love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. 124:15. Cool. So now I'm gonna make a note, and then we'll like take some audience comments. Got some good ones.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. So Back of Beyond said, "Don't go there. Remember what the governor did to Kathy Griffin." I don't know what the governor did to Kathy Griffin, but I know that you made that remark in response to me saying that I might, do something politically sketchy if I had the chance, and we're going to keep it at that. But let me know what that is about. Shara Drury said, "Ladies, I set up a reminder for the show and it didn't remind me." That's a shitty reminder. But yay, you made it. You made it pretty quick into the episode. So thank you for coming. Sophia said, "Why does it feel like the U.S. justice system hates children sometimes?"
I agree. I don't know.
I am, same question here. Yeah, what?
I feel like when an older person hurts a child who is defenseless, why is the burden on the defenseless child to like fend for themselves? I don't understand. But yes,
It's a weird, super weird world that we live in. Because everybody's like, save the children, and then everybody's always hurting the children. It's fucked up. So we have recommendations for Puppies video. We have 2 recommendations for Schitt's Creek, which I will put a third on. Yes.
That
show's amazing. I have watched it several times, but it's on my list of things that I rewatch. So it might be coming up again. The Office is pretty played out right now. So is Parks and Rec. I've been on a Good Place kick for months.
At least since October, because when I saw you, you were like, "I'm going to go watch some Good Place." And that was like 4 months ago.
And I really like the first season the best. So I'm not
Me
even
too.
joking. I've been watching the same 12 episodes probably every day for.
Oh, this is the bad place.
It's in like it's like a in the background thing though,
No, I feel you. Today is Groundhog Day. You should go watch Groundhog Day. I mean, that's an amazing, hilarious movie. I will be watching Groundhog Day tonight.
So I didn't know that Paint the Town Red was a Doja Cat song, and I just heard a parody of that song like months ago, and I was like, that comedian made a sick beat, and that was hilarious. And I just, because I live like under rocks, and it's that one that's like, "Bitch, I said what I said." But there's a version. You guys look it up. Google "Bitch, I'm a rodent," or Doja Cat squirrel. Like it's like, "Bitch, I am a rodent," and he raps about being a squirrel, and he's like, "She's a squirrel, full buck teeth, she feral. Took a dude to her tree hole. She got nuts, now the young tuts."
Wait, she's got nuts?
She got nuts, now the young dude's sterile. Like she took his nuts.
Yeah, I get it.
And then actually it says in my planner, because my planner just says fuck constantly. It's great. And it says, "Rodents can't tell the fucking weather." And I liked that.
My kids were obsessed with it, like all the way to school this morning. I thought we would put the Groundhog Day discussion to bed. Like, has he seen a shadow? I don't know. He doesn't see a shadow yet. I really hope there's 6 more weeks winter. Will you tell us if you find out tonight? Can you let us know? Like, they're very concerned.
You should show them the squirrel video. "Bitch, I am
Yeah,
a
that's
rodent."
a good idea. I'll show my 7 and 8-year-old.
You guys would seriously Google that, because that's actually you know what? I'm going to put it in the chat.
Did you know that there is a lizard called the Jesus Christ lizard?
No.
It like
What?
walks on water. And I think that's like the colloquial name for it. But we were reading a book of facts a couple weeks ago. And my son all of a sudden is like, "The Jesus Christ lizard." And then so my kids wanted to say Jesus Christ like over and over again because I thought it was hilarious. I was like, please stop swearing.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't paying attention because I was looking for the squirrel song. Sorry. But I'm like irritated because I can only find people who reposted the video. But I'm gonna put it in the whatever. I gotta show you. And then stop it. Leave me alone, TikTok. I don't wanna. Okay, here we go. Because I actually think it's better than the Doja Cat version.
There you
Just click
go.
it. Just watch it real quick. You guys watch it too.
I'm not gonna click it because it'll come up my computer. I'll watch
really?
it later. Yes.
All right. Well, you guys should watch it because it's super funny. It's Crowley said, "It's been amazing, ladies. Good work as always. Still sad. My reminder come in. We love ya. We love you too. We'll be here next. Will we be here next Friday, Ellen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. We will
be. I don't remember what we're talking about. Let me look. But
I know. We're talking about Edgewood, the Edgewood experiments.
Ooh, you're talking about Edgewood.
Or maybe
right?
Lake Lanier, since we didn't do that today. I don't know. It's a mystery. So all right.
All right.
I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah. I'll see you later.
Maybe we'll go live Monday. Who knows? So you guys make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, comment. I'm not good at commenting back. I'm not going to lie, you guys, but it helps the algorithm. So it's cool. Thank you.
I try to comment back when I can, but talk to us or join our Discord and talk to us.
Join the Discord. Like I will fully chat with you all day about anything. It's
literally anything.
Yeah. That's it. Bye, you guys. Bye.
Bye.
We love you. Yay. Subscribe, like, comment, share.
Subscribe. Bye.
Subscribe.